a couple quick questions.
Well, by the way, we're now up and running, so
Okay.
everything is rolling. So good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome. St. Martin's Lights News that matters to you with Emil Lee, our special guest, Member of Parliament, the Honorable Darryl York. Nice to see you, brother. Welcome back. And the tea is okay?
Yeah, the tea is great.
Okay, just making sure. Just making sure.
So, MP, do you know who is the substitute minister for VSA now that Minister Brooke is out of office?
Well, as it stands, it's the Prime Minister himself.
So, I mean, some of the pretty serious allegations towards the Prime Minister were related to him sort of overstepping his authorities. In other words, he has his tasks and responsibility as Prime Minister. The Minister of VSA has his tasks and responsibilities, and the accusation from Brooke was that the Prime Minister was overstepping and sort of delving into the Ministry of Health.
That's one of the accusations. There's a bevy of accusations.
There's a bevy. I agree. There's a number of accusations, but that was one of them. So now the way is sort of clear, if that was the case, for the Prime Minister now to be actively hands-on with the ministry. Do you see that as a concern given the allegations?
Major concern. Actually, we were very vocal about it on the day of the ousting of the minister, where we said several of us said we don't find it. What's the word I'm looking for? Appropriate. Seeing the amount of allegations and the kind of allegations levied against the Prime Minister by now former Minister Brugge, of things that he has allegedly done or tried to do within the ministry. We don't find it appropriate. A number of us don't find it appropriate that he's actually the substitute or the acting minister until there's a new minister. Because hey, if you're accused of these kind of things, when there was a minister around, allegedly, what would you do if there's none?
So is there a consequence to those allegations? Are there investigations? Do you know, is there anything happening?
From what I know, there was a research requested by the for the Integrity Chamber to conduct of research within the ministry. And from what I understand, there was an official complaint made by the authorities to conduct an investigation. So there are multiple things running simultaneously, or about to start simultaneously, and I don't think it's appropriate that the person who these allegations are pointed towards would be running the show.
So just for clarity, my understanding is that if the Council of Ministers wanted to reshift the substitute ministers, they could make a decision to say, okay, given the current situation, let's reshift, and the Prime Minister would be the substitute for a different ministry instead. They could make that decision, couldn't they?
Yeah, they could. I just don't know exactly how that works within the Council of Ministers themselves. Maybe you could tell us more about that one, because
as far as I understand, it's just it would just be
a vote,
a decision within the ministries.
Well, then it comes down to a vote
to reshuffle.
So hopefully the council does the right thing.
Okay, so I was actually traveling when the whole issue with the motion of no confidence came, and perhaps you could explain a little bit of the behind the scenes or reality of it. In that, normally when there's a motion of no confidence towards one of the sitting ministers, opposition typically loves that, right? Because the more sort of holes they can poke in a coalition, the more chaos that they can sort of sow within the coalition, the better it is. It looks better for the opposition in terms of sort of weakening the coalition, and increases the chances of the government falling and new elections, which gives the opposition a chance to go back into government sooner than the 4 years. Not typical. That's sort of atypical here. But this time it happened very different, actually. The opposition didn't support. Can you explain that? Why not the sort of normal political strategy of anything that we can do to hurt the coalition is good for opposition?
Well, thank you for the introduction. because exactly how you said it is exactly what we what we wanted to avoid. Because the typical historical thing to do would be just create chaos, or cause chaos, or add to the chaos, in hopes that the government falls. That's not what we want or what we wanted. At the end of the day, if the government falls, it sets everyone back, right? And right is right, wrong is wrong. And the members of opposition, including myself, felt and still feel, if you're gonna send somebody home, send them home based on their performance, right? I am not a referee. I was not put in parliament to referee relationships. So whether you guys can get along or not doesn't really interest me. The question is, can the work get done, right? And Minister Brugge was far from perfect as it pertains to his performance, but in comparison to the other ministers, he was actually performing. And you know, when I go out, when I go outside, when I speak to seniors, you know, when if I look at certain departments within the ministry that didn't even want to see a government official up to a couple of months or up to a year ago, and now they were in parliament in support of former Minister Brugge, that's very telling for me, right? And according to me, even when you read the motion was not about performance. When you listen to the President of Parliament, Sarah Westcott Williams, speak, it wasn't about performance.
But there was an issue about conflicts of interest within his staff.
So the good thing,
and if you look at the paper today, Mussington on the French side, the collectivité president, is actually under investigation for very similar issues.
So great point. I'll delve into that for you. This conflict of interest issue is not new. This was 2025, right? To be exact, May 22nd, 2025, that issue was discussed in Parliament.
Okay.
When we had the mental health meeting about the mental health.
So just for our listeners' clarity, explain the issue.
So for the listeners' clarity, basically the Mental Health Institute, the one to be constructed with under the NRPB. There was a contract for a consultant, a term of reference put out for a consultant last year, and basically someone very close to the minister won that bid, and basically the husband of the chief of the former minister's chief of staff actually happened to be the husband. There were advices drawn up by the ministry, by the department, sent to the minister, and before the minister signed, the wife allegedly co-signed on the advice.
And also, there's a suspicion that the terms of reference were sort of specifically crafted in a way that he would be the most eligible.
So, great point. May 22nd, 2025. These exact points that you're raising was raised by my person.
Okay.
Exact points. Hey, terms of reference. Hey, the alleged salary that the person was going to make. Hey, the person that's going to be picked. I raised the flag on every single one of those points, Mr. Lee. Every single one. I left no stone unturned. The minister, and I don't know if you want to look at it to his credit or not, but the minister did not lie. The minister stood his ground. He answered every single question. I still don't agree up to today, but he answered the questions truthfully.
But there's a saying, paper doesn't lie, right? So
wait, but it's nothing he lied about.
No, but that's why it makes sense to say the truth, because it's papered, so you're going to find out.
You know from following politics that ministers don't always tell the truth.
Sadly true.
He told the truth. And not one person from the coalition that day or those days stood up and contested anything. Not one person made an issue about it on the floor of Parliament, right? It was then coalition above country. No problem. If that's the way you want to go, you guys have the majority, have at it.
That's a political statement.
Yeah.
So let's keep politics on it. That's politics, right?
This whole thing is politics, Mr.
Well, and that's the problem.
This whole thing is politics. That's what they said.
That's
it's
our
not about performance. It's political.
That's what
they said. It.
The chair of Parliament actually said.
We can't go around it. That's what she said.
Yeah.
It's not my statement. She made the statement. So to continue, so my whole thing was, now, principle. If it wasn't a problem then, why is it a problem now? Now, because it's convenient, because it suits what you want to do, which is get rid of him. Because last year, when you didn't want to get rid of him, it was not a problem. So why is it a problem now? It's a year later. We had a meeting about it already. You didn't raise the alarm. Why raise it a year later about the exact same topic, the exact same points? I don't get it. Right? And then when you look behind the scenes, it's basically, okay, you want to get rid of him now, so you kept it in the back pocket then for whenever you would need it. That's not the type of politics I signed up for. And based on that, I'm like, no, find another reason. If it was good last year, it's good this year. Out of principle. Not saying I agree with what he did. And as well, there's also a reason why the National Alliance brought forward a motion of disapproval. Because the last time a motion of no confidence was brought to the floor of Parliament for the Minister of Vromi, the President of the Parliament said, hey, there should be a kind of a procedure for this. It shouldn't be a motion of no confidence straight off the bat. There's a motion of disapproval. That should be explored first, etc., etc. So why is it for one minister a week before, it's supposed to be an entire process before you get to a motion of no confidence? You explain what the process should look like. And now when we follow the process, because it's inconvenient for you now to follow the process, you want to fast forward it to a motion of no confidence. So for all reasons, it's like, no, what we're doing here is wrong. Because what goes for the goose has to go for the gander. If the process was wrong for a minister last week, what makes this one any different? Because that minister actually, the Minister of Vromi, got a no confidence for his performance that everyone can see that's not performing. And basically, as well, like what I just said, if it was not an issue last year, why make it an issue now?
So
and
let me ask
one
you.
last point, to just to finish that up. The allegations were brought forward by the board of the party, right? For the last 2 years since I've been in Parliament, when I ask for documents, the one thing I hear repeatedly, it's confidential. You can't see it. But the board is walking around with all these confidential documents as if they're a member of the COM. So I'm like, okay.
But just for clarity, I think members of Parliament, they can also receive documents on a confidential basis.
And we still don't get them.
Right? So there is an option.
There is an option that the ministers don't respect. Well, most of the ministers don't respect. Because when you ask for documents, I mean, as well documented that I've asked for documents in the past, and I would just get the phrase, it's confidential, MP. So we don't get them. So how is it a third party can be walking around with documents in hand and making political decisions?
Okay.
So it stinks from all corners. So why does the one person have to be the scapegoat? And that's something I didn't want to take part of.
Okay.
All of this, as a taxpayer who doesn't get a vote, right? I find all of this so infuriating. I find it infuriating that after almost 16 years as a country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, we seem to be lacking the maturity, the political maturity, in some cases the emotional maturity, in some cases the professional maturity, to actually get the people's business done. I truly scratch my head, and when I think after all these years, I'm trying to think of one law that I've seen come out of Parliament that has meaningfully impacted the lives of people that live and work here. And I scratch my head and keep going,
well,
what's the one?
There's one that was brought to Parliament a couple of months back from MP Utley as it pertains to the whole stateless kids topic that would be addressing that. To me, that's a very impactful one that some members unfortunately started to play politics with, but I'm sure that it will get the amount of votes needed to be implemented.
But it's still not done.
It's done. It's just going through the process. There's nothing more
But
he
not
can
gonna-
do about it.
It's not. This is not about the people, right? This is not about the individual players in Parliament.
No, I'm just saying.
This is
there
about
is some things
the
coming.
legislative branch. After 16 years, I would expect to see a body of work of things we've
That's something
accomplished.
else, yeah.
So-
And
so-
with zero, nothing.
I
So-
only can speak on this term.
So I certainly understand the the issue that you're talking about. We were talking off air about you're going to propose legislation regarding succession land. I guess Sock and I, as we were talking before coming on air, if you look helicopter perspective, big picture perspective, right? The Minister of Romy in Council of Ministers press briefing said that the legislation for the building code is so outdated that the current legislation doesn't even require you to have a bathroom indoors, right? So meaning that the legislation's from the time when people had outhouses. The budget hasn't even been submitted to Parliament. We're already halfway through the year, right?
May I chime in on one thing?
Just the hospital has, from what I understood, 77% increase in cost. You have a engineering background. As far as I can tell, the hospital, it's still just concrete, right? The expensive things, in other words, all of the medical equipment, hasn't even been installed. I don't see windows and doors yet. So, in other words, so far, we're dealing with just a concrete structure. And if I check against the regional norms in terms of increases in building cost increases are somewhere between 4 to 6%, right? But that's not being questioned. How is it that you're looking at a 77% increase and you haven't even gotten to the expensive equipment and the furnishings? That's a real concern. So I guess the frustration or the feeling is that there's government is basically broke, right? There was an article that came out that the pension fund has been depleted by, I think, 500 million guilders. SZV has been tapping the pension funds. So at what point, for example, will government say, you know what, we're in a financial emergency. We need to stop business class traveling, reduce expenses, maybe reduce the number of government vehicles. I don't know, but go into an emergency mode instead of business as normal. So I guess that's sort of the frustration of, is Parliament focused on those big picture issues? GB generators haven't been ordered yet. Those big issues, we're not seeing. Doesn't feel like it's progressing.
Mr. Lee, a lot of times, we have a separation of powers, right? You have
Correct.
the trias politica, you have the judicial system, you have legislation branch being Parliament, and you have the execution branch being the Council of Ministers / the government. A lot of times, responsibilities are, to be honest, in my humble opinion, sometimes responsibilities are laid on the wrong side of things. If Parliament doesn't do something, Parliament gets the blame, rightfully so. If the government, being the execution branch, doesn't do something, Parliament still gets the blame.
But Parliament does have an oversight role.
Wait. 1 second. Parliament still gets the blame, right? Parliament works on a majority system, right? When you zoom in on Parliament, those that raise the alarms and raise the flags and discuss the issues and requests the meetings and leads the meetings and those type of things, and what you just summed up, they're forgotten. What is remembered is the decision to do nothing, led by the majority of Parliament, who has the vote, right? So quickly, I can sit on here and say every single one of those issues you named just now, myself and my faction has been very vocal about over the last 2 years. As a matter of fact, in the last meeting about the construction of the new medical center, of the new general hospital, I was very vocal in that as well. I was the only one asking, hey, what is going on with the increase? As a matter of fact, right now, they refuse to even let us know what the number was of the alleged increase, the official number Up to now, I don't know what the official number is. The minister literally said, it's no problem. Right? So when you're dealing with that type of information being given, and you want to press and you want to continue a meeting, and then, for example, you would have, like, for example, in the meeting where the minister was exposing some things, you would have the minister, the president of parliament, just adjourning the meeting just for certain things not to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're faced with these type of challenges, as a single or the minority in parliament, it's very hard to do your job. It's very hard.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then to come back on the thing of should we call it a state of emergency when it comes to the financial state?
Mm-hmm.
We just had a meeting with the CFT.
Mm-hmm.
In all fairness, it may sound crazy, but it's not that far yet, right? It may sound crazy, but it's not that far yet.
Not that far that you need to
for
call it an
steady,
emergency,
right?
Okay.
But it is that far that you got to start making decisions, right? You got to start making decisions where you're going to make the money,
Mm-hmm.
where you're going to cut the money. You have to make these decisions. And right now, there are no decisions being made. And so basically, we're in a state of paralysis. And because of paralysis, you get, is degenerative to the state of the country.
Well, there's a cost, right? And this is what we're experiencing, right?
Yeah.
And, it seems to me that we have just, for the past 16 years, and I'm going to go down this path with every politician, every minister, every member of parliament that comes into the studio. For the past, when are we going to start to do the actual job of legislating and governing the country?
Well,
because we're just clearly not.
Got two things. One, your favorite topic being, where's the budget? Right?
Good question.
Where's the budget? We're going into June. Well, we're already in June, going into July in a bit. Where's the budget?
And
secondly,
and MP, let me also add, this is not the first year that we've sat here and had this conversation in June. The year is half over, almost half over, and the budget still is not done.
And coincidentally, we're talking about the last 2 years. But with that being said, for example, the first thing Mr. Lee asked me, hey, July is the recess, right? Mm-hmm. Great.
So normally Parliament adjourns for the month of July.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have that. And now, most likely, we're going to have a budget debate in the middle of the recess. Now, people would say, hey, parliamentarians, they have days off already, so they shouldn't be complaining about being days off. But when you have week on, week off, it's not weeks to be traveling, or to go on vacation, let me put it that way. Most people, such as myself, wait until the recess to leave the island.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is going to happen, and I would say politically so, you're going to have a budget debate when the most vocal members are not on the island to take part in it. Does that make sense?
None of this makes sense to me. And I'm going to go back to the question that I think is the elephant in the room that nobody really wants to ask. But I'm going to ask it anyway because I feel like it's my job, right? And I like to ask the hard questions, and I like to do it in a very respectful way.
When you get a long introduction,
you're in trouble. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
So we made a decision to be a country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Mm-hmm.
And after 16 years of experience, the question, are we better off now than we were 16 years ago? And if I have to answer that question, undoubtedly, in my opinion, we are no better than we were 16 years ago.
So let's unpack what you just said, because I'm in agreement, but I also disagree. And the reason why I'm saying it is, look at it this way. When you compare countries that had a similar trajectory, at the end of the day, does a 16-year-old know how to live life?
No.
Does a 16-year-old, can a 16-year-old stand on their own?
Most cannot. There may be some.
Okay,
but most
there's some anomalies in between. But at the end of the day, a lot of people compare us to Aruba, right? Aruba is like for 40 years ahead of us, 30 something years ahead of us when it comes to that. Holland is centuries ahead of us when it comes to that, right? So at the end of the day, you're comparing basically a baby in the process to countries that's already fully grown. So the fact that we're having growing pains or the fact that we're having issues, that's to be expected. Now, the question was, and I asked this on the floor of Parliament, did we have a trajectory as it pertains to after 10, 10, 10? Where were we supposed to be after 5 years? Where were we supposed to be after 10? Where were we supposed to be after 20 years? Are we, according to that trajectory, off, on, pale? Where are we? That just shows me that there was no plan, right? No plan being that, hey, okay, there's the first part of the plan, getting the status. And the second part is, how do we progress after getting the status? And to me, that progression, that part wasn't planned beforehand. So we're doing everything reactive right now.
I would actually add to Sock's question and say, compare ourselves to the Bess Islands. If St. Martin had opted for a different structure,
and that's the thing.
Where do we think we would be
today?
And
that's the thing. When you speak to when I speak to my counterparts over there, they have their own struggles.
Different struggles, yes.
Every country has their own struggle. Mm-hmm. So right now, if you speak to somebody from say, West Asia, they got steam coming out of their ears right now with their own issues over there. So,
but their standard of living seems to have,
improved.
Because when the Prime Minister from Holland was here and we had the conversation, he's talking about that the Bess Islands standards of of wages, etc., and quality of care and education should meet Dutch standards,
right.
be equivalent. And when you ask the same question about St. Martin, he's like, that's your responsibility.
Yeah.
So those are your choices. That's your responsibility. So I think if you look at those objectively, everybody, I don't know many people that don't ever complain, right? So of course, every country is going to try to improve. And so they have suggestions and thoughts in terms of that. But I think if you look at it objectively, I think we should look at it objectively and at least consider,
did we make the right
difference.
decision?
I mean, I know their legislation is way more updated than St. Martin's because they have the strength of the kingdom behind them in that process. So.
I believe that St. Martin, two things. One, we haven't made the most out of what we have.
Mm-hmm.
That's fact. So there's a lot of missed opportunity there. And we're also in the middle of the both worlds, because you have on one side, you have the situation that the Bess are in, and on the other side, you have the dreaded taboo topic of independence, right? And we're in the middle, right? And all three options has their pros and their cons. Like someone would be like, Mr. Lee, I would love to have your life, right? And you'll be sitting there like, you think so, right? So we have to be wary when we look at someone else from the outside looking in and say, I want that, because we don't know what comes with it.
Yeah,
we just
sure.
don't know. We know what we have, and we know what we're missing, right? And I think we need to focus more on what's missing and actually deal with those issues, then have another 15, 16 years pass. And I'll give you this. I sat back and I watched a video from 1980 something, right? I think 1983, right? And of the political campaigns being done then. And there was this one speech of someone really going in and naming all the issues that the country was suffering with at that point in time. And this is over 40 years ago. And all the hairs on my hands still stood up. Because surprisingly, every single issue that he named, we're suffering with today.
Mm-hmm. I'm not at all surprised.
Right?
I was here in the 80s.
and back then, we were part of the Antilles, the same period of time that you guys just said we were doing better, right?
So wait.
That's
not what we said.
Wait. I say that to say this. A lot of times there's an illusion over time that we're going either forward or backwards. But in the reality, we're not moving at all. right? So until we start focusing on what we need to actually do to move forward, we're gonna still be in the same position. Doesn't matter which status we have.
But
It
isn't
doesn't
that
matter.
isn't that the job of the legislature
Yes,
to do
and that's
that?
the job of the legislator. And what I pointed out, it's been done wrong for 40 plus years. It's not a problem of today. It's not, right? And I can bring proof. So with saying that, we need to quit doing the things we've always done,
Mm-hmm.
expecting a different result.
Well, that's what they call insanity, right?
Yeah, and the majority is insane.
Well,
So,
and let me do this. Let me take a quick break. It's 8:55. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Well, welcome back to the program, Fresh Air in the Morning. My name is Dr. Sock. St. Martin Insights News that matters to you with Emil Lee. Our special guest this morning, the Honorable Darryl York, Member of Parliament. We have just about a minute or so to go. Where do we go before to wrap up?
So it's actually more of a suggestion slash question, right? The CFT has come out with their comments about the healthcare funds and the need for general health insurance. What I find difficult is they just say you need to have general health insurance. Yet, the CFT in Aruba and the CFT in Curacao have criticisms about their general health insurance, saying they need to make adjustments in terms of co-payments, that because it isn't financially sustainable in those countries, in Aruba and Curacao, right? So why the CFT doesn't take those lessons learned from the general health insurance in Curacao and Aruba, and also suggest them one time in St. Martin and say, look, as CFT, although they're different offices, the lessons we've learned are X, and those should also be applied to the incoming general health insurance legislation. Is that something you mentioned? You had a conversation with CFT recently. Isn't that something that you could say, that as Parliament you'd like to have more than you need to do general health insurance, but you need to do it correctly, and this is what correct looks like?
So we actually didn't. We actually raised that same question, not directly about, for example, SFE, the general health insurance, but we raised the question in the sense of, hey guys, we noticed that when you do render advice, at least from what we see publicly, is very surface level.
Yes.
Right? It's very surface level. It's not direct, and one could say it's very safe. Right? And basically, their reaction was, hey. In other words, I'm paraphrasing. We put that out publicly because that's the essence of what we're saying. But in our meetings with the ministers, we tell them exactly how we think.
But can't Parliament have those same conversations with them?
And seemingly, that's their way of working here in St. Martin, right? Because
but could I suggest that you ask for that?
So you think we don't?
Okay, all right, good.
So we push for those answers, but I realize that they're also very wary of it turning political, right? So they try to thread that line very carefully in what they tell the ministers and what they tell Parliament, but they keep a middle ground publicly where it's safe, it's still on topic, it's still the essence of their advice, but it's not direct to exactly what they said. I have an issue with that.
It pisses me off.
And then I also brought up, hey, we are in a closed door session for a reason.
Yeah.
What is said in a closed door is technically, ethically not to be, brought to the public. Let's have that conversation. But seemingly, to be honest, since I've been in Parliament, I have seen no difference between open door and closed door meetings, because they're equally as censored as a public meeting. So
for me, this is like an adult or a parent watching their children make bad decisions and letting it
go on and on and on and on.
They would come in and was like, hey guys, the budget is late. Yeah, we know. What did you
and then
have you told the minister this,
and then 5 years from now they're going to say, but we did warn you that you had to do it correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, come on.
We are just not, we are proving that we are not up to the challenge, and that is sad. That is just plain sad. And the saddest thing is it's the people, it's the taxpayers that are allowing this to happen for quite some time. My good buddy Darryl York, I respect you and the work you are doing. Please keep up the good fight.
Thank you very much. And then in closing, thanks for having me. And I would like to implore everyone that's listening, and the listeners, thank you for listening. And also to look out for page 3, the bottom right of the newspaper. You might find something that's very interesting.
Well, you have something there about succession land, and I think you're putting effort into legislation. I think, indeed, go to the newspaper and check out
page 3.
You want to get back tomorrow morning? Let's talk just about that.
Oh, sure, no problem.
Okay, come tomorrow morning. We'll make it work. Before we get that, we'll pick a time. We'll make it. That's all we're going to talk about.
Great.
Tomorrow. Deal.
Thanks for having me.
Deal. Always a pleasure. Our good buddy Darryl York, member of Parliament, and always nice to see him. Good buddy Emil Lee. I'm way late. It's 3 minutes after the hour of 9 o'clock. Your marine and tropical weather update is on the way. Brought to you by K Beach Club and Restaurant. K like character. Stay with us. We'll be right back.